Good morning. I would like to welcome all of you to our breakfast briefing on the results of the Polish elections 2023. My name is Katarina Niewiedział. I'm the member of the board of the Progressive Zentrum, and thanks for joining us to this discussion. Before I pass to Maria, who will moderate the discussion. Hi, Maria. With our two excellent experts, hi to Konrad and Karolina. I just would like to make three remarks on the results and the bigger picture of the situation right now. Let me just emphasize why I think it was a historic election for the Polish society and what it means to the German-Polish relationships, to the Polish-German relations, and also the role of the Progressive Center to our think tank. In my daily life, I am the Commissioner for Integration and Migration of the Berlin Senate. And in this role, I am also responsible for the Polish community in our city, which is still one of the biggest migrant communities in Berlin. So I really work very close to the Polish society and NGOs. And I can tell you, in the last 8 years, the cooperation was not very easy. The cooperation on the official level was not easy, but also the cooperation within the NGO sphere was really, really tough. So you can see the polarization of the society in Poland also has an impact on our life in Germany and also in Berlin. So what I think and what I wish is really to overcome this kind of polarization we observed. And of course, also the revitalization of the German and Polish relations, which I think is quite tough on the civil society level, but even much more tougher on the political level. I can just, I won't tell you what kind of toughness I mean, but I think we really, really have to overcome this problems and challenges and try to work more closely together. And that's, I think, something that the Progressive Center plays a huge role as a think tank, which has always been a bridge between Polish and German society, try to cooperate with intellectuals, young political rising stars, and so on. And I wish that we renew this kind of cooperation and close work. And just to tell you a funny fact, 2007, when the Progressive Center was founded, and I was the managing director at the time. Hi, Dominic. Our first, really first public event and public discussion was about the Polish elections. The title of this event was What's New with Tusk, 2007. So after 16 years, we are repeating this event, but we all know the situation is completely different. The circumstances are different. The world has changed. The European Union is different. And also the relations, and as I tried to describe. So what exactly is different? What the election means for the relations? I'm very happy to hear more about this from our excellent speakers, and I will pass to Maria. I wish you all an inspiring, interesting discussion, and I hope to stay in touch with all of you and try to work on a better German-Polish relations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kaśka, so much for this warm welcome. And I also cannot stress enough how important it is how this Polish-German bridge here at das Progressive Zentrum, what a important brick in the building of this think tank this has been. So good morning, everybody. My name is Maria Skóra, and I'm a policy fellow here at das Progressive Zentrum, as well as a research associate at the Institute für Europäische Politik here in Berlin. And this is my great pleasure to host this breakfast briefing after the storm, after the elections in Poland today. We have two great speakers with us who will bring some more information and their insights about what has just happened on Sunday in Poland. So please allow me to introduce Karolina Zbytniewska, who is editor-in-chief of Euractiv in Poland. So she will be representing a more journalistic perspective, a bird's eye view on Poland, and Konrad Gołota, who in his daily life is an advisor at the Party of European Socialists in Brussels, dealing with Central and Eastern European progressive parties. But in these elections, he was a candidate for Senate within the Senate Pact, which was an alliance of all opposition parties to win places in Senate. So thank you very much. We will have an insight to the to the situation in Poland from many different angles. And just briefly about this meeting. So I will have the pleasure of asking my questions first to our speakers, but then it is an open format. So please come in and either write your questions in the chat, or I'm not sure if it's possible to raise a hand, but we still have people working in the background, so no worries, all questions will be taken. So I encourage you very much to make it an interactive format and to join our discussion. We have more or less an hour now, a lot to unpack, so without further ado, let's start. And then question number one to Karolina and Konrad. What do you make out of this elections? It's a warm-up question. How do you feel? How did you wake up today? Let me just tell everybody what the results are. I was waiting till the very last moment with it, because imagine, votes are still being counted. It's 99.99% of the votes counted officially now to the parliament. And so the Law and Justice has won. Has gotten 35.38% of all votes. The Civic Coalition, led by Donald Tusk, is finally landed by 30% and 69. Then the next, the third way, so a Liberal Christian Democrat alliance of two parties, 14.4, the left 8.6, and the far right Confederacja 7.1. So this is the landscape after the storm. How do you find this result, Karolina?
I'm very happy. Until the really last moments, I didn't believe in the positive outcome, because I was disillusioned in 2019 and also in presidential elections so much that I decided that I should change my general approach to elections, just not to have this bad aftertaste feeling. Now I'm really happy, and what cheers me up even more is this feeling of calm and of unity among the people. Seeing all these queues to the electoral commissions was really a beautiful, great experience. So it's like a pure happiness. But now I'm really scared again. What will be happening now? What the opposition, if they are allowed to form the government, what they will do with this possibility, because it won't be easy. They have differing agendas, political agendas, and they must come into unity also between them. But what also gives me optimism is that, for example, when Donald Trump lost last elections, he said that he doesn't actually believe in the result of the elections. when Jarosław Kaczyński was speaking on Sunday evening, he wasn't like Trump. He said that there is a possibility that we will go into opposition. So this very short sentence gave me optimism into that, in the end, peace, whatever they have been doing in terms of killing off our rule of law, that they will accept the rules here, the rules that are written down in the Constitution. So I'm happy and I'm optimistic again.
All right, thank you very much. What a start, Konrad. What's your take on that? What's your mood today when you wake up to these almost final results?
Well. Thanks a lot. First of all, good morning, everyone. And I think we are the first group of people who really make the evaluation, because many experts are still trying to figure out in details what really happened. They try to understand why some parties in the very last moment went up or went down. But first of all, there's something which we believed, but we didn't know if it's gonna be the fact happened. So the opposition, not opposition today already, won the elections with the highest turnout in Polish history. And this is a clear, good sign, and combination of two factors, or three or more. First factor was a huge mobilization of those people who, from various reasons, were disappointed with the situation and wanted change. There were people who were strictly on the pro-democratic side, and I also met many people who were just tired with peace and with Kaczyński and with their rhetorics. Secondly, you know, this factor, and this is quite important always in politics, that sometimes if you do things, everything becomes a success. Everything is well received by the voters. And sometimes whatever you do, half a year ago, it would be a brilliant shot, but it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And I think it was very much with last months of peace campaign. They tried many things, many golden shots, and it didn't work. Finally, and this is, I think it will be very interesting in the discussion weeks from now, I would say, when we have more analysis, is who else voted? Why those people, this 10% or over 10% extra who went to vote, whom they voted, why they voted, what made them vote, what pushed them to this decision, what is really good, and what is important. I expect some turbulences with forming the government, with forming the coalition. I expect that peace will not step down super easy from this attempt to form a government, at least to buy some time. And what is very, very important in such parties, you mentioned Trump, to build the story of those who badly lost, who were betrayed, who struggled. You know, they have to build a fortress now to keep the electorate, because big turbulences are ahead of this party. Many people who were leaving from this party, leaving from the state, are losing their positions now. And it's always an earthquake in such a party, such model of a party. Now, for us, the opposition is the moment of taking the deep breath, checking who is in the parliament personally, who is not, what are the options, and start the negotiations, which are starting already today. Big challenges ahead of us, but I think it's going to be for another question, so I stop here.
Thank you very much. So let's name the common denominator in this conversation. So it's cautious optimism, and this is already a good start. I personally was very worried still yesterday looking at the partial results coming and waking up today to see that the tendency actually stayed favorable for the opposition was a good start of Tuesday. But anyhow, this is the state of affairs. So the opposition the opposition has a realistic chance to form a government. It seems that Law and Justice, despite winning 35% of the votes, is not in the position to find a coalition partner and won't be able to find a majority. An interesting change of mood in the Polish society, one would say. Let's then look at the campaign. So let's look at all these events that happened before and that contributed to this not only very high voter turnout, just for your information, almost 74% of people went to vote, and actually more women for the first time ever cast their votes than men. What led to these events? Karolina, could you please take a look back and give us like some background information? What were the most important topics? What were the messages that the Law and Justice was sending to their voters, and what were the main messages that the opposition used to convince people to vote for the opposition?
Okay, so maybe before I will mention the messages, I will say that in general, this electoral campaign can be counted as the most brutal, most aggressive in the history of Polish elections, as well as so many people turned out to the vote. But so the most brutal. This rise of brutal language has been rising since the elections in 2015. Beforehand, there was not so much agreement within the society for the aggression, for the violent language, for the hate speech. This spiral was going up and on and on. And really, it reached in this campaign their utmost levels. And it was also the campaign that, being the most brutal, was the least about concrete solutions, concrete challenges. It was mostly about emotions. So that the main messages were actually not really the messages that we will make the Poland, our Poland, even a better place by doing this, and this. It was mostly about changing the people in power or changing the people in opposition. So the major messages of peace, of law and justice, were emotional hate speech against Donald Tusk that was treated as a synonym to Germany and to Brussels. So invading our Polish heartland and killing of our sovereignty altogether in their treacherous actions. So this on their side, while on the opposition, apart of there have been some messages, but the main one was to take peace away from power. So these were the two major messages on both sides. So it was more about emotions than about real messages. I can also tell you the biggest highlights of this campaign if you want, but I can also keep that for later, as you prefer.
What would be
Sorry?
What would be the highlights? What would be the highlights if you were to choose three highlights?
Predominantly, the highlight was organizing referendum simultaneously. So it was a very important theme in the elections, because it was containing ideological messages that peace was trying to deliver, but it was actually triggered in order to gather more money for the electoral campaign. So it was a very important theme in that actually there are voices that actually it was one of the reasons why peace in the end lost some votes. So just by organizing this referendum. On the other hand, there were marches organized by Donald Tusk, especially one before the elections, which showed to the Polish people and to us journalists and to everyone that really physical mobilization counts. It really has a power to influence the opinion polls and actual voting results. So this was a very important move, organizing the marches. What I find also important, but also it might be interesting for people that didn't observe the campaign all the time, was, for example, the Green Border movie by Agnieszka Holland, how it was used in the campaign it was used by PiS to show how Donald Tusk and his allies, supporters, traitors to Poland, actually attack Poland. So very different means of showing the traitors. There was the visa affair, which was against the general strategy of Law and Justice, which is a strategy of showing how the European Union is trying to impose a suicidal refugee policy on itself and on Poland, while at the same time our government was selling out visas for thousands of euros and bringing in legally people of the descent that is usually being very much criticized. I have many more examples, but maybe I will give voice to Konrad.
Yeah, I think, I completely agree that the campaign was very intensive and brutal at times. And also the good strategy of the opposition was to target and mobilize women and young people. But let's ask Konrad indeed, because he, as a candidate, had a hands-on approach to the campaign. And as Carolina said, it was more a campaign about emotions and the overall vision of Poland and the clash of ideologies and less policies. Can you tell us how you found yourself in the campaign? What were the main challenges? What were the worst and best moments that you've encountered in the last few weeks?
Well, there's a lot of questions. First of all, I would like to a bit apologize of all of you, because we started with something which you may know from memes. It's mice in Polish. We are just tired of this campaign, but we are super enthusiastic. We are super optimistic. And as we start in the very early morning, we should give you more energy. So I'll try to do it now. The issue is that it's been really the toughest campaign. It's difficult not to go too much into details, but you may be not familiar with all the details. But as a candidate who lost the seat by 5% only, I can tell you that me and really hundreds of candidates had the toughest campaign ever, not seeing their families for really weeks. I know many people who haven't seen their families for weeks, being just on the tour in the campaign. What Carolina mentioned, it's been purely about emotions. Emotions once again. I will give you an example from my campaign. We had nearly week discussion if on my materials as a candidate of the Senate Pact of the whole opposition to explain people more what is Senate Pact. Should we give the simple message on this materials saying that I am anti-peace? Because for many people, it's been the first message when they were closer to us. Like, where are you running? Oh, I'm to Senate. Which party? A Senate Pact. This is composition of three opposition parties, democratic opposition. But it's peace or no, anti-peace. Okay, you're my guy. But then we had another dilemma, once again about the emotions. If I would put anti-peace on my materials, I could mobilize people who used to vote for peace, who don't want to vote for peace anymore, and who could just come back to defending peace because someone is anti their party, strictly anti. So finally, we didn't do that. We've been competing for those undecided who were like around 10%. It's been very important to have the campaign, to tell what you want, but not to mobilize the swing voters from the other side. It's been very, very difficult. Second thing, because of the referendum, PiS has used public state companies to campaign. Because as you can imagine, the company which is selling energy to houses has really no interest to campaign in the referendum about refugees quotas or about the border between Poland and Belarus and the wall on it. But they spent millions of euros on campaign. Thirdly, we as candidates of the opposition, this is not complaining, this is just the fact. We had around 10% of the resources for the campaign, for outdoor, for materials, for meetings, comparing to the governing party, to PiS. And they've been using this, breaking all the limits. But if you build a state when the political will, not the law, is the most important, when you're not afraid of the prosecutor, which will chase you because you think you will win, then you don't care about limits. That was the mood of the campaign. And it was technicals of the campaign. For the first time, as all of you mentioned, women voted in bigger scale than before, young people in bigger scale than before. Naturally, because of this, tools like TikTok, for example, were way more important in these elections. And it's been a really funny fact because I would say that in this campaign, parties from our side, from the democratic opposition side, had the best programs ever. They were really very well shaped. But the problem was that no one really cared about it because it was emotions. It was all about emotions. And finally, what was very, very important was being repeated, the message that we will form the government after elections. So we are not competing with each other. Very important moment of the campaign was a 1 million people march in Warsaw, because it gave people the hope, but also the strong feeling that we are stronger, that there are millions of us. And we've been using the slogans, which you may know also from American campaign, that they have millions and we have people. And we used it because it was true. So now, of course, there is evaluation who won personally, who lost. The composition of the new parliament will be quite interesting because there's a lot of personal surprises, a lot of underdogs who will be in the parliament. But I think that this campaign and stages of the campaign.
Conrad froze.
Okay, it was very often against everything we know.
All right. Thank you so much. Just to give our viewers a hint about the campaign. So the OSCE has already published a press note, a report from the observation of the campaign in Poland, and said that the elections were competitive. So it was in that sense free, but not fair, in the sense that the governing coalition had an advantage in misusing state institutions and state funds to support their campaign, and because of media bias. A kind reminder, the public media in Poland are neither objective nor neutral. So it's pretty interesting that despite these problems, this disadvantage, the opposition still managed to pull everybody in. I think we've lost Konrad for a while, but my next question anyway would be to Karolina, namely, so we have the results that we have, and we know that Law and Justice got the most of the votes, but the coalition led by Donald Tusk is just 5% behind. But who is the real winner of this election? At the end of the day, the success of the coalition of the opposition was also very dependent on the opposition parties, so smaller coalition partners. Do you see any surprises or winners here?
Who is the true winner? I would say, pretentiously sounding, that democracy, liberal democracy, is the winner. And even last week, I went for the event, Budapest Forum. It was about building sustainable democracies. And there was this feeling of doom and gloom among experts who were saying that actually there is no history of returning the slide into illiberalism in our kind in Central Eastern Europe. So there was this doom and gloom about that nothing can be done. And then we won the elections. We won the elections. So I think that the real winner is actually liberal democracy, apart from the Polish society as the whole, that will be the sole benefiter of that. But also European Union really needs unity at the moment. And if the united opposition is allowed to form the government, then also this power system within the European Union will change, and it will bring in more unity, more strength, and we can return to talks about strategic autonomy like in the past. They started losing sense. It is also giving hope to the opposition, for example, in Hungary, because last year they brought a lot of pessimism, and probably it was the reason why Polish opposition didn't decide to go for one united opposition list, because they saw that it doesn't really work from time to time. But they weren't the united opposition now on paper, but what allowed them to win was also this mutual support in between the liberal democratic opposition parties. Despite they were not running together, they were supporting each other, which was really great. So democracy, the Polish society, the European Union are the winners, I would say.
Okay. But thank you, Karolina. I would like to zoom in now to the situation of the left, because Konrad was actually representing the United Left as a senator candidate. And what do you make of the result that left did? On the one hand, it's of course good that the left will be represented in the parliament. It's also much better than in 2015, when the left didn't make it to be represented in Sejm. But as of now, it's about 8.5%. Is it a good result for the left, or are you a bit disappointed?
Well. Once again, many different angles. So first of all, how left? This is very good news for the whole Europe. What we did, we stopped Confederacja. We stopped brown nationalists, and this is mainly thanks to campaign made against them, strictly against them by left, and of course the mistakes they made. And if I would celebrate something today, a part of the victory of the opposition is that Confederacja will have only 14 seats. And 3 months ago, they've been polling on the level of 14–15%, and they could have been in the government. So if we would discuss about achievements, for me, this is already a great achievement of this campaign for the left. Secondly, yes, the expectations were higher, because we've been polling recently around 12%. And I must tell you that we had, in my opinion, very good campaign. Normally, after elections, you find many reasons why you didn't succeed. This could have been done better, this could be improved. I would say that we had very good, very balanced, very smart campaign with a very good program, focused on certain society groups, mainly on young people and mainly on women. What has happened, in my opinion? We're trying to understand it, why we dropped down from 12% to 8%, while the third way jumped from 8 to 14. But this is something which will be the part of the evaluation of the political scientists for next weeks, because some new processes happen. I would say that we became kind of a we paid the price for this composition of three parties, because what is important to know is that just a week or two before elections, the third way, which is the coalition, was polling more or less around 8%, which is the threshold for coalitions. So in the last week, many commentators seeing left polling 12%, third way polling 8%. They tried and they started to call, okay, left will have a good result anyway. We need to help a bit to the third way. It was repeated also by Donald Tusk in the last call, and it's been very smartly repeated by the leaders of third way, who are telling either third way or the third cadency of peace. And according to the very so far few, but examples from many cities, I could say that some of our progressive leftist voters decided in the very last day to help the third way because they were afraid to repeat the situation from 2015, that in the if the third way will not be in the parliament, those lost votes will strengthen peace and peace will be governing again. What is also important for us to evaluate, our campaign was very much about women and to women, but sadly, we didn't get as many votes of women as we expected. So this is another issue to be evaluated, because we've been balancing in this campaign. On one hand, with a very strong message to pensioners or people just before the pension age, which are natural voters of the left. But our campaign was modern, was very much focused on young people, on young women. So maybe we lost somewhere this balance, and maybe we focused on one of two groups too much. I don't know yet. We have to really discuss it deeply. But I can tell you that it's a moral victory, as we call it sometimes in Poland. We have changed the political discourse in Poland. If we are mentioning Donald Tusk and Civil Platform, Civil Coalition, they were not for the abortion accessible to 12 week of the pregnancy 2 years ago. The discourse has been changed by us, and in many other topics, we have changed the discourse. So sometimes this is also the price you pay for being the first. So you set the trend, the others who follow you are benefiting from it. I don't know how much we can compare it now to some other social democratic parties in Europe. I think sometimes this is the case. Our result is not, it's not as good as we predicted, but it's not bad. We have 31 seats, and what is the most important, we will be one of three elements forming the government. And if we combine this with major changes in the Polish politics, state politics, which I think we will be evaluating a bit later, and also very important element, huge reform of public media, who have been poisoning people's brains for last 8 years with peace propaganda. When we will combine those three elements, I think it will strengthen us on the left very much. But so far, the result is as it is. It's not bad, it's not good. We are opening champagne, but one bottle, not two.
All right, that's, well, maybe for the better, you have work to do. So,
may I?
Yes, of course, please go ahead.
Yes, because for me it's also very interesting I would say that a lot of people from my bubble voted for the left. And in 2019, often they were afraid to do that and preferred to vote for civic coalition because they thought that they might lose a vote if they vote for the left. And now they changed their mind. Following the polls, they could have noticed that left may enter the same. And only with left in the same, the liberal democratic government would be possible. So many were giving this tactical vote, as you said, not only for Hołownia and the Third Way, but also for the United Left. So I must I would love really to understand what's the problem of the Polish left, especially with really good shows of Czarzasty, so one of leaders of the left, and quite good electoral debate on Monday before elections. I really don't understand, and I would really love to hear from you what you think, because you already mentioned that it was about not catering to the needs of the elderly electorate, rather focusing on the young. You mentioned the propaganda in peace, but the propaganda didn't harm the results of the Third Way. It harmed only the results of the left, but neither you nor the Third Way were ever appearing in the Wiadomości and other public propaganda TV programs. So are there any other reasons you can see why left received a little bit, why the left underperformed?
Well, I mentioned the TV propaganda, like in the future possibilities to strengthen the position if we will finish with this TV propaganda. So if it will not poison people's brains anymore. As for, we really had good appearances. We've been very good in the debate. And we also had a very modern strategy of not showing one leader, but showing a group of Avengers. So we have 3 men, 3 women going in pairs together. We call them Avengers. And it was once again maybe attractive for young people, but maybe our elderly voters didn't understand it as we would like it to happen. So on the side of civil platform, you had, of course, Donald Tusk, supported by Rafał Trzaskowski. The Third Way, it was 2 leaders, Hołownia and Kosiniak-Kamysz, and we had actually 6 leaders. But once again, we wanted to show the team. We wanted to show also the gender balance. We had 3 women, 3 men. It's also like with the TV debate, you cannot be the front runner of women's rights and then put only 2 men in suits saying we will be defending your rights, dear women. This is not credible. But I don't know really. We start just this debate. We now have just only now, a few minutes ago, the official results, and we are starting to evaluate. I don't see that we made too many mistakes. I think that we rather paid the price of a part of electorate moving their sympathy in a very last moment, also because they were afraid of something, like afraid of the Third Way not getting to the parliament. Of course, once again, civil platform, we had very good cooperation over the campaign. But in the last day, Donald Tusk called once again the opposition voters, vote for us because only we can win with peace. And as it doesn't affect the electorate of Third Way, there is also part of electorate which is shared between us and civil platform, and they are walking from one party to another. So even 1%, if they were mobilized by that, it's affecting the result. But as I said, the result it's not as good as we expected, but it's really not bad.
Well, at the end, we do have 3 opposition parties, just as planned, that are able to and willing to form a coalition government. So I guess congratulations to all 3 of them and to the voters for strategically voting and tactically dividing the votes to make it happen. But all right, so we have this optimistic scenario, but before we I would like to hear from what you think you will change in domestic policies for the EU, for the Polish-German relations, for Ukraine as well. As we know, peace had made a pivot just before the elections, threatening Ukraine not to send weapons because of the grain export scandal. But before this happens, before this new government materializes, are you not worried, and I come back to the very beginning of your statements, are you not worried about the law and justice, first of all, obstructing the transfer of power? And do you not worry about them then being more destructive than constructive in cooperating as the opposition? And maybe now a side note to our German viewers, as you can see, the Polish political scene looks now a bit familiar like the political scene in East Germany, for example, when you have a big right-wing populist anti-European party with over 30% of the votes, and then those, let's put it, democratic parties or mainstream parties having to cooperate beside them, next to them, despite them. So maybe lessons learned to be drawn here. But first of all, do you think this transition of power will when will it happen, and if it will happen smoothly? Do you trust the law and justice? Katarina trusts law and justice in the sense that Kaczynski already said that on Sunday. But what do you think is the realistic scenario? How will it go?
I think, well, according to the constitution, if the constitution is not broken by law and justice, and I don't see why they would, after what Jarosław Kaczyński, the leader, said, as I mentioned. I think that everything should happen within around 2 months, because it's how it should look according to the constitution. So first, the president will appoint the leader, representative of the party that won the elections, that is Law and Justice. They got the majority, the most of percentage points, the majority of votes to create the government, and then it will be voted by the parliament. The majority is needed, and they won't get it most probably. There is no at the moment they don't have, they are far from the majority. They have 2,000, I counted it. At the moment they have, according to the results of the elections, they can count for most probably 220 seats together with, and it's already together with Confederacja. So still it's not a majority, because in Poland they would need 230 plus 1 to pass the government. The majority is 231. Now they have 212, while the united opposition at the moment can count for 248. So if their government is not voted for, then the parliament can propose their own government, and they need a vote and the confirmation of the majority. So the united opposition can achieve that. So as I'm saying, it might take 2 months. And what I'm scared is what is the blocking of the democratic process afterwards, when we already have the oppositional government. Well, then it won't be the opposition, but the democratic government, the democratic coalition. So there will be the checks and balances to the democracy formed by the president, the current president, Duda, who is supporting peace all the time and can be blocking all initiatives, legislative initiatives. Constitutional Tribunal is probably here to stay. And also the Polish National Bank head, which is also a kind of, he acts as a politician of Law and Justice. So these three institutions are going to be constructively blocking democratic change of the newly elected government, I think.
Thank you. I just would like to remind our viewers that you can ask questions, either write them in the comment section below or raise your hand. But before that, one last question to Konrad. So let's say this new opposition government the opposition will become government, so that we will have the new pro-democratic, pro-European government. What change you think this will mean at the EU level, at the international arena? Is Poland going to be back at the table?
Well, I would like first to add one thing to this, what Karolina said,
sure.
that we may expect this scenario, but we can also expect, because President Duda has surprised us many times, that he will just think about his future, and he will be either president of peace, or he will give the right to form a government to the winning coalition. Secondly, we have to be aware and we have to understand that now the aim of peace, they have two aims. One is build the fortress. So draw the whole story, how they have been betrayed to keep the hard voters. And this is what all the populists do. Orban is doing the same. Trump has done the same, the stolen victory and things like that. Then the third element, there will be, of course, huge turbulences in this party. But for them, the best option politically strategically, is to respect the democracy and its rules and the constitution, because we, as the current opposition, we are left with a very bad and unknown economical situation. There are billions, hundreds of billions of euros, which are out of democratic parliamentary control, budgetary control, huge debt. So from their perspective, the best is just to now give us the power and observe it from the distance, commenting and criticizing everything. We shouldn't have any doubts that they will not be any constructive opposition. It will be obstructive opposition. It's also the very big challenge for us, because to fix the country as fast as possible, we should, in a way, follow their strategy. So do not respect any motions sent by the opposition, by peace. Do not let them go with their own proposals. Ignore it. But it's not in our political DNA. We are Democrats. So it's going to be also, from the moral point of view, a big challenge. And the question you asked about the Polish politics. First of all, and I think it's very important, it will be driven by interests, not by emotions. The whole peace politics, it's been called that they fight for Polish interest, but it's been driven by emotions, prejudice, without further strategy. We will be trying to get back to the core of the political discourse in Europe as fast as possible. The first and the major step, the most important, is to fix the rule of law in Poland. And it's a condition sine qua non of any further changes. Our aim is to fix the relations with all the neighboring countries as fast as possible, and come back to the normal discussion, which means that we can have the conflict of interests, we can have different point of views, but it should be negotiated, not being concluded with the diplomatic fight. And this is one thing. The second thing is also, I cannot speak now about details, but we've been discussing since months many ideas how to unblock the democratic process, how to overcome the obstructive position of the National Bank or the Constitutional Tribunal. So I think it's going to be interesting time from that perspective. For sure, is it Polish-German? Is it Polish-French, Polish-Ukrainian, Polish-Czech relations? They will have different dimensions, but please also do not expect miracles within weeks, because we need to change the way of operating institutions. we need to change people and it doesn't happen in a day. So I would say to any European commentator, observe what we are doing, but understand the logic of the processes and that the Rome wasn't built in a day.
Can I add
yes,
just one
Karina,
thing?
please go ahead.
Yes, what you touched upon, Konrad, is bringing back the unity and so on. And it is what really gives me a pessimistic feeling. Because again, I look at the United States. Joe Biden won. He has been in power. He has been trying to rebuild unity and liberal democracy, to take populism out of the American politics and take the violence out. But what is going on? Actually, the polarization is growing. People are violently uniting around Donald Trump. I'm receiving newsletters and emails from several Republican candidates. For example, J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance has become popular in some circles around the world because he wrote a really good book about roots of right-wing populism, Hillbilly's Elegy. I really recommend this book to you. There is also a movie on Netflix based on that book. And then suddenly he became a Trump supporter. And now he's actually one that in his newsletters is inciting violence, that we must actually go into the street and fight for Trump because he's illegally sued by courts and we need to do some violence. And I'm really afraid that this might also happen in Poland. And I wouldn't be so much afraid if I didn't read the book by Sierakowski and Sadura, The Society of Populists. I recommend the last chapter, which is about the violence and aggression in Polish politics. That actually during focus group research, they were outrightly violent and inciting aggression against, for example, Ukrainians. There is a similar level of violence and dehumanization on the part of the liberal Democrats, who are not aggressive towards the foreigners. They are aggressive towards the opposition. So non-like-minded people, voters, and so on. So I'm really scared that I know that it's a black scenario, but it is one of the scenarios. And I would really love, Konrad, so that you manage with the left and with the democratic opposition to calm down this aggression, because Pandora's box was open in 2015 and it needs to be closed. And it's a huge power of this aggression. And I really wish you luck, and I will try to support, but I don't know how to do that.
And it's actually one of the questions I wanted to ask, that Law and Justice still, has a support of 35% of all those who went to vote. And how to win these people back? I think, again, parallels with Germany or with East Germany, how to bring these people back from this rabbit hole of conspiracy theories and the narrative of betrayal and us against them, and overall tribalism. As Karina noticed, it's not only one-way streets, actually. The divisions within the Polish societies are very deep. There was actually one question in the chat about the importance of emotions during the campaign and the kind of emotions. And I think your quick exchange covers this very well, that there was more negative emotions than positive. Next to hope incited by the opposition, there was actually a lot of animosities. I would like to allow Kinga, who's been raising her hand for a while now, to ask a question from the audience. Please, the floor is yours. You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much. My question fits very well to what had just been talked about, because I was wondering about the polarization and the challenges ahead. I'm very glad that there will be changes. You already mentioned rule of law and the relations to neighbors and the EU and so on and so on. But I also think the big challenge is how to deal with the society that had been very polarized in the past years, and how to reach those people that are not like hardcore hating whatever extremists, but who voted for peace because they provided something important to them, be it, I don't know, the importance of Catholicism, which is still important for many Poles, or something else. So how do you reach those people that are reachable within the broad limits of democratic pluralism? And related is the question on, there are many things that you will change. You already mentioned some, but where are the areas where like allowing for pluralism is the key? How to, for example, Carolina said that it's difficult. I think it's difficult to reach them, but how would you assure that the average peace voter will see him or herself represented in the media, and that there won't be in 5 years media on the one side and media on the other side, but as Maria said, like media who are neutral and objective and cover the whole spectrum of opinions as long as they are democratic. And yeah, I would be very happy to hear about that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Conrad, would you like to crack this question as I...
Yeah, well, it's a very broad question, and I understand the nature of such exchanges. But if I would tell you that we have answers for all the questions just 2 days after the election campaign has finished, I would be lying to you. Because each political process has its natural steps, and you have to focus. You need to have, of course, the broader perspective and plans, but we focus on the most important step, and most likely on one step at the moment. You mentioned very important topic, but the issue is, and to this what Karina said, also sources of this polarization. When we refer to the peace electorate, and this is also written in a book Karolina mentioned from Sierakowski and Sadura, peace has two elements of electorate. One are hardcore voters who would vote for them even if Jarosław Kaczyński would kill a person in the middle of the street. And they have also transactional voters who even were they disliked peace very much, but they've been choosing peace because they thought that at this moment, this party pays me off best when they are in the government. So the first element is not to reverse all the policies, but keep those policies and understand which policies were important for people's dignity, especially for voters from smaller cities, and try to improve it, keep it in a reasonable way, in a sense not to show those transactional voters that something can be the state policy, not a gift given by the governing party, like PiS wanted to present. The second element is, and this is difference between Poland and the US, is that PiS used mainly to spread their hate propaganda the public television, not the private television. They don't have the Fox News, and it's good news that they don't have the Fox News. So if many voters will not be listening to permanent lies all the time, 24/7, they will also see the difference. Of course, it's a process, because if you've been believing in something for years and then you see completely different world, it's very hard to change your opinion in a second. So it will be a process, but cutting off the propaganda role of the television, turning this into normal public media, it's also a very important element. And then we talk about policies, but you can also, and I will refer to the German politics, you remember all the negotiations about forming the coalition. Now we sit by the table. Each party which have its own postulates and agenda to be implemented as a state policy. And it's too early to tell you which policies, which postulates of each party will be the governmental policies, and how it will influence the large scale of the electorate. Because if we will lower down the emotions, then we start to talk once again about programs and concrete proposals.
Thank you. But that's a very good bridge from policies to the question from the chat about, again, the role of Poland in the EU and key issues like climate, migration, or support for Ukraine. What is your expectation the new government will do? Well, it's obviously a pro-European government, but at the same time, there will be inevitably conflicts of interest. So how do you think the potential government of Tusk will go about it? Karolina, as you're active, maybe you can try to unpack the future relationship with the EU and position of Poland in the EU.
So I can look back at what was happening before 2015, when peace actually has construed its emotional agenda partly on hatred towards the European Union. Beforehand, it was the other way around. And Poland not only was a constructive actor on the European Union stage, but at the same time, it was developing economically, and these two elements have transformed into our growing power, growing say at the European Union decision table. And I think that despite it will not happen in a minute, but it will really happen soon, because we see the level of the support in Europe and worldwide to what has happened in elections. So I think that the European Union will really jump into constructive cooperation, because, as I said in the very beginning, we, the European Union, really need constructive unity at the moment of this really high cost of living crisis, we could say, at the moment of the returning refugee crisis, asylum seekers, migration pact is very much needed, and we need constructive partners within the European Union to decide on something that will work. I think that at the moment, what we will see is a transformation of the overall geometry of the European politics. So it will be a really major positive turn for Europe as a whole, also, as I said beforehand. And I think that we can look at the revival of the Weimar Triangle. Maybe revival is not a good word, because it has never been a powerful axis. But I think that at the moment, with not a very strong Olaf Scholz chancellor and very weakened Macron, now a strengthened Polish democratic prime minister might be a partner here. I hope we will be, and I think it will be for the good of the European Union, because we see this dignity versus indignity power play. So Central Eastern Europe is showing that they are not feeling treated fairly by the Western parts of the European Union. So I think we need this Central Eastern Europe partner to make European Union explainable to the people that are still feeling and sadly will be feeling for some time left behind. And it also caters to this question that was asked by, I think, Kinga, who will reach the people. And you mentioned the media that are reaching the people, and it's funny because I was talking to the journalists of this propaganda public TV in Poland, and they told me they really believe that they are the ones that represent the real people, that the real people in the countryside don't have their media representation. That's why they are doing what they're doing. It's incredible because they don't act as the media, but as actually populist politicians, and they believe in their mission of catering to these people and offering them representation. So what PiS was doing really well was this cooperation with Catholic Church that was also being asked about. So Catholic Church was actually prolonging this TV, our TV, propaganda PiS TV, onto the churches around Poland. So churches were also giving out propaganda and supporting PiS and certain kinds of ultra-nationalistic and ultra-conservative agenda. So it was a really good cooperation, but now we saw the third way, that is Hołownia, so conservative, Catholic conservative, and the Polish People's Party, or in the past Polish Peasants' Party, that they were going to the countryside, to this heartland of PiS, and turning the voters away from PiS towards them. So I think it's possible to cater to these voters by not being inciters of hatred as PiS has been.
Okay, that's already some strategy. And to finish on the strategy note, Konrad, a last question, brief question to you. What are the topics that the left will bring to the new government and will be standing for? Because we've already assumed that the chances of a new government being formed later this year are pretty high. So what are the, let's say, 3 things that the left will take?
Well, I think that I will not discover anything new. It comes strictly from our program. Let me say 4. Rule of law, women's rights, affordable housing, apartments for rent, which was in the core of our program as well. And for the German viewers, we don't have such a system in Poland. If you want to rent an apartment, you have to make it on the free market. Finally, this what Karolina mentioned, the strict separation between church and the state.
Great. And I think these were also the topics or the most concerns that brought people to vote. It was the economy, it was the security of the country, women's rights, separation from church, from the state, and the rule of law and migration. These were the topics that decided these elections according to Ipsos polls. I would like to thank you both, Karolina, Konrad, for spending the morning with us today and sharing your thoughts. The situation is dynamic, but I think by now we have the final results delivered. Thank you very much to our viewers for joining us and your questions and your interest in Poland. I hope that should the new government materialize, we will also have a new opening in Polish-German relations that, not a secret, have suffered greatly in the last 8 years. Thank you for the PZ for putting this all together, and we greet everybody in the spirit of cautious optimism. Please follow the developments in Poland, and otherwise have a great day. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.